Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Surfer's Journey. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about how we paddle and how technically we can make our paddling better. And I've got a few other key tips that will help take your paddling to the next level. And by doing all of that, you're going to save more energy and you're going to be able to catch more waves. And that's what we want. So let's get into today's lesson of the week. And guys, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe now so you can stay up to date with all of my latest videos and tutorials. There are many skills in surfing and paddling is one of the most important. We spend most of our time in the water paddling around, whether we're paddling into position, paddling out the back, or paddling to catch waves. So with paddling being such an important skill, it makes sense that we should spend some time getting it right. So let's have a look at breaking down this example. Here you can see that I'm getting into position to catch this wave. I've got my legs together. By keeping my legs together, it's going to help engage my core more, which is going to give me more power. I've also got a slight chest lift. This is going to help engage my back muscles as well as my core. So it's going to make my paddling more powerful and more efficient. You can see that my strokes are long, my hands are entering at the top of the board, and it's going all the way through to my hips. From this angle we can see clearly what I'm talking about. But it's not just my hands that are entering the water, you can see that it's going up to my elbow. That's how deep my hand is. And in addition to that, you can see that my arms, when they enter the water, are close to the board. I want to do this because it's going to help lengthen my stroke. Now obviously it depends on what kind of width board you're on as to how wide your arms are going to be. But remember to keep them close. And finally, remember to keep your hands cupped. There's a bit of an argument as to whether your fingers should be held together or slightly apart. But me personally, I like to have cupped hands, but I would recommend that you try both to see what works best for you. Now your paddling technique will actually change depending on what kind of board you're riding. As you saw before, I was on a long board, but now I'm on a short board, and you can see that I actually kick my feet hard when I'm going to catch a wave. This will help me generate the speed that I need to get that board up and riding. Let's have a closer look at how riding smaller boards will actually change your paddling technique. And to do this, let's have a look at an example of me and my mate. I'm on a 510 short board and he's on a 610 mid-length. And you can see that because his board is longer and has more volume, that he doesn't have to paddle as hard or for as long to actually get into that wave. You can see here that I'm having to work really hard to generate that speed, to get momentum, to get into the waves. When we compare that to him, I'm having to kick hard and I'm having to paddle hard. It's really important to know that the shorter and smaller the board you're riding, the harder that you're going to have to work when you're paddling for waves. You can see in this example that the board's almost underwater. That's because I like to ride boards that have a lower volume. But if we compare that to the longboard, you can see that it's well and truly out of the water. This board here has more than 30 liters extra than that small fish. And in addition to that, it's almost 3 feet longer. So obviously I'm not going to have to work as hard to generate that speed when I'm paddling into waves or when I'm just paddling around. Now there has to be a reason why we would consider sacrificing ease of paddling when we're looking at surfboards. Why would I want to ride a board with less volume that's shorter if I'm going to work harder? Well, if I'm fit enough to paddle a board with lower volume that's shorter, then I'm going to gain in responsiveness and performance underneath my feet. So definitely consider that when you're looking at surfboards. Are you fit enough and strong enough to be able to paddle a board with lower volume? Or do you need a board which is a little bit longer and has more volume to help you out when you're trying to paddle around? This is a decision that you'll have to make. I'm a big advocate for having different boards for different conditions. And when the waves are smaller and fatter like this, you might choose to ride a board with more volume because it's going to help get you into those small fat waves. And as the waves start to get better, you can look at decreasing that volume. Let's have a quick discussion of paddling speeds and intensities. When you're paddling into a wave like this, you're giving maximum intensity. You're going 100% to generate that speed and power to get into that wave. But when you're just paddling around, cruising into position, or paddling out the back, your intensity is obviously a lot less. If we paddled around everywhere at 100% intensity, our surf sessions would be really short because we'd get tired. So it's important to know how to modify your intensity depending on the situation. Another thing to consider is where we take off. If we take off on a whitewater section like this, you can see that I didn't have to paddle as hard to get into it. Because that wave's already broken, that whitewater will give me an acceleration of speed and a big push when I paddle into it. So I don't have to paddle quite as hard to get into that. Another thing to consider is late takeoffs. Now, taking off late takes a lot of practice and a lot of timing to get right. But in this example, you can see my friend has hardly even paddled to get into this wave. And the reason for that is because it's quite steep and punchy where he is. And it all comes into positioning. By taking off on the peak on a steeper section of the wave, you don't have to paddle as hard to get into that. Because it's a powerful punchy section, it'll pick you up and throw you forward quickly. But you have to be ready for that. So I want to take a closer look at how we can improve our paddling technique and how we can improve our paddling outside of the water, looking at a couple of exercises to make us stronger. Paddling is predominantly a pulling movement. Therefore, we can improve our pulling power by practicing moves like this in the gym. Pull-ups and ring rows are a fantastic way to develop our back muscles, to make them stronger. Now you might think, well, how's that going to help me build endurance? Well, we can change our sets and reps to do higher reps for endurance or lower reps for power. We need a blend of both of these to improve our paddling. We need the power for sprint paddling into waves, and we need endurance for all other times. Guys, thanks for watching the video today. I hope that now you have a better understanding of how to paddle. And next time you go surfing, I'll be really curious to know how you go and if you feel a difference. Remember to like the video and comment below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Thanks guys, see you in the water.